Oh. Oh my god. Oh wow, I have not heard that in a long time. Like I just got hit with nostalgia for a franchise that I'm pretty new with. Like real talk. I'm tearing up a little bit. Just hearing that Type Moon jingle just makes me think of Fate, man. Not feet. It almost sounds like I mispronounce that sometimes, but it's not. Hi, welcome back, everyone, to some more Witch on the Holy Night. This I still can't believe I'm playing it, so let's just go back in and continue on. So we've reached back the house. It's been a long day, but I think Aoko will finally get a chance to let loose a bit, be more herself, lose the student council president sort of veneer, right? Much like the weather outside, the foyer was overcast with shades of gray. Perhaps by deliberate design, the architect had chosen not to include any lights in the entrance area. He did it for a laugh. He's like, what if though? The ceiling was 2 floors high. The only light in the room came from the skylight. It was particularly gloomy on rainy days. On moonless nights, it was like the world itself ceased to be. Aoko decided the drawing room to the east would be a good place to rest, but knowing that she would not be able to relax until she changed clothes, she headed up the stairs. The stairs curled up the wall to the 2nd floor hall. There was a 3rd floor attic as well, accessible from the far end of the hall. She had never set foot in there in the 2 years she had lived here, though. The Kuwanji mansion was more or less divided into 2 wings, east and west. Aoko had been given the entire east wing, but 2 rooms were more than enough as far as she was concerned. She had no desire to open a door that would trap you in a storybook world or lead to an attic that had only been used for storage these last 5 years. Okay, so that one line there makes a lot more sense, because we did hear this in the demo about the storybook world. And now I understand a bit why. Ako's room was at the end of the east wing's long corridor. She had elected for a smaller room for no other reason than she thought it'd be easier to clean. It was furnished with a large bed, her beloved mahogany desk, a wardrobe and chest for her clothes, and 2 9-shelf bookcases. That is all she brought with her from home. Her entire life of 16 years reduced to this. She borrowed the next room down for her own purposes.
そうだ。アリスにもらった見張りと壊れてないかチェックしないと。
She needed to see if the project she had been working on all night had borne fruit. The study next door served as proof of the life she had been living for the last year, and how different that life was from the one she had lived before. It was not a room for the person she had been. It was a room for the person she would eventually become. A place of solitude only she could enter. Or so she thought.
うわ、壊れてるどころか跡形もなく消え去ってる。やっぱ自己流アレンジはまだ早かったか。いいわよ。笑いなさいよ、コマ撮り。
Tweet tweet. The noisy neighbor that had intruded upon her sanctuary flew away. While not exceptionally talented, Aoko did not lack for effort and was not afraid to fail. So, I don't know if I brought this up last time. I don't think I did. That bird is in Fate Grand Order. And specifically, on the fully leveled up card of Robin Hood. And it's on his arm. What is the joke Robin? Robin Hood? Like, wow. It's in Grand Order. One could have almost mistaken her approach for optimism. Thank you for cutting away. God, that looks comfy. She changed out of her uniform and returned to the 1st floor. I mean, I say that, but at the same time, I'd never wear it. Because long sleeves and like a turtleneck, I hate it. It feels like it's choking me. I would never wear that in myself. I can't even wear like long sleeve shirts. Because if it's too tight with long sleeves, I feel like I'd go insane. That's just me personally, though. More power to you if you like that. Yo, the purple accent on the jeans, though. Purple stitching. Down the stairs, she opened the door to the east wing into the corridor as dark as a cellar. The absence of windows meant it was pitch black without the lights on, so she flicked the switch and entered the nearby doorway. Oh god, that CRT. I think I talked about it before, but it's so beautiful. She did say this last time, and I thought it was just a random thing. It had been her idea to update the drawing room. The walls were decorated with extravagant patterns, and around the room were large, majestic sofas and a luxurious Persian rug. Amidst it all was a 30-inch television that seemed completely out of place. It stood looking over the other furniture like the emperor with no clothes. You just like edit in Coma coming in and just stealing it. The mansion's owner would have rather done without it, but to a commoner like Aoko, it was an essential commodity. They had fought over its presence at first, but eventually came to an agreement and now mutually enjoyed this modern comfort. Got a VHS player. She's got a copy of Toy Story and she's like, this movie's so good. Now in a somewhat pleasant mood, she decided to brew some tea. Hey, I didn't make tea, but I have coffee with me, but it's way too hot. I can't even pick up the container. I will burn myself. She boiled some water in the kitchen, prepared a teapot, and made herself some black tea. Gonna put a little bit of milk in that. I like adding a bit of milk to my black tea. With a flop, she sank into the sofa. She took a sip of her tea, then another. Oh, this is comfy. This is comfy. God, I love the god rays, as they call them, when the light shines in through the heavens like that. Especially during golden hour. See, now I'm like, this is making me not want to live in the city, you know? It's making me want to go back out. But then again, I would miss the comforts of things of the city. Lured by the ticking of the clock, she took a third sip as she pondered how to spend her afternoon. The sofa almost seemed to be inviting her, and she sank even further into its comforting embrace. Aoko blearily opened her eyes as she lifted her body up from the cushions. There she is! This was no dream or delusion. At some point, a girl had sat down across from her. Not the least bit surprised, she reached for her teacup, but the tea had gone completely cold. Oh, she had big sleepies. It happens. She asked the question to the girl on the other side of the table. The girl answered without lifting her gaze. When silent, she could have been mistaken for a beautiful doll. The girl sitting on the opposite sofa was reading an old book. She had delicate limbs and pale white skin. Not a hint of humanity emanated from her melancholic aura. She had darker hair than Aoko, and her icy eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. Her clothes resembled that of a nun, but were actually her school uniform. In Aoko's humble opinion, the gloominess suited her. She evoked something like out of a painting. There was something unreal about her, as if she were frozen in time. The white of her neck was so lovely that even Aoko found herself enchanted by it. The girl was one of the haunted house's 2 residents. Her name was Alice Kuonji, and she was the same age as Aoko. Is that a true thing? I think, haven't there been studies that have proven that, like, the only way to actually... I'm gonna apologize here. I always just say what's on my mind, and reading the same prompt might make me say the same things as in the demo. I don't remember what I said, so if I do the exact same jokes or talking points, just know that my brain is like, it will say the same thing again. Internal stimuli lead to external stimuli. That's the wrong sort of way of putting it, but regardless. Like I was saying, didn't they prove that that's not a thing? That it's not about where you sleep or how you sleep, but more just, yeah, it might lower your immune system to sleep in the cold, but at the end of the day, you still need to get the cold from someone. Alice answered indifferently, not that it bothered Aoko, who was now used to it. She looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it was already 7. She had been asleep for 2 hours. The day had been a rough one for her, and she had slept little the night before, so it was no surprise she had dozed off for as long as she had.
起こしてくれてもよかったのに、せっかくの紅茶が冷めちゃったじゃない。
Now it's iced
私
tea.
が来た時はもう冷めてたわ。
でしょうね。行ってみただけよ。
Aoko drank down the rest of her cold tea in one gulp. In the poorly heated Kuanchi mansion, that was more than enough to clear her head and wake up.
こうなると、フォートナム&メイソンも何もないわね。おかえり、アリス。玉の贅沢もあんた抜きじゃ閉まらないってことかしら。今日は薬日か天中殺か。ちょっと早いけど、お参りってのも十分ありかもね。
Gotta go pray the bad luck away. Aoko shrugged her shoulders as if resigning herself to her fate. No, that's not this franchise, that's the other one. I swear if I made this exact same joke in the demo, I hate it. I hate it. I'm just reacting to things in the same way over and over. I'm like a robot.
それで
Mind of
何があった
steel.
の？
After 2 years together, they knew each other quite well. Aoko had one way of asking questions, and Alice had another. Alice asked without raising her head, and Aoko gave her the details.
まず謝らなくちゃいけない。昨日徹夜で完成させた例のあれ、意味がなくなっちゃったのよ。ちょっと目を離した隙に沸騰しすぎて壊れちゃったみたい。そうならないよう、循環のコードを2、3本外したり、縫合したりしたんだけど。
So I still don't know what they're talking about. Aoko tried to laugh it off as if it was someone else's problem.
どういうこと？
今朝休養が入って、学校に呼び出し受けたの。そこで転入生の世話を押し付けられて、一日が無残にも消費されちゃって、帰ってきたら跡形もなく消えてました。怒る？アリス。
別に青子の器物破損にいちいち怒っていたら一生分の口論をすることになるでしょ。代用品はあるからまた一から始めればいいわ。それより怒ってるのはあなたの方じゃないの？
She's like, you're mad, aren't you? I know you. You're mad. Meh, she is. Alice was very much on point today. It was true that, despite outward appearances, Aoko was seething with frustration. That aside,
この転入生っていうのがひどくずれててね。すごい山奥で暮らしてたらしくて、こっちの常識が通じないんだから。三問以下って言葉があるけど、あれって本当のことなのね、アリス。
she's like, have you heard the phrase, no thoughts head empty? Yeah. Alice raised her head in response to hearing her name, but Aoko kept going on before she could get a word in edgewise. Aoko, after all, expected no sympathy in the first place.
初対面から尺に触るやつだったけど、教室を案内した時なんか失神しそうになったわ。そいつ、教室で教師と1対1で授業を受けるもんだと思ってたらしいの。それはそれでまだ流せる。許容範囲よ。で、私が簡潔かつ丁寧に教室の何たるかを教えた後で、それで青崎、他の教室は何に使うんだ？ですって。教室に他も何もないでしょ？なんていうか、そいつは少しでも説明を怠るとそのままで納得しちゃうのよ。
I mean, it's fine. Sometimes people don't want to disagree. Sometimes they just go with the flow.
何も疑問に思わないというか、想像力が欠如してるっていうか、想像することに慣れてないっていうか。まあ、一度言ったことはちゃんと分かってるっぽいからバカってわけじゃないんだけど。
あなたが人を批評するのは珍しいわね。そういうダメな人、気にするたちだったの？
I hate it when people do that. When you're like complaining about someone, you're like, this person sucks, and someone just says, well, why do you care? Why does it matter to you? Because it does? Because you got those opinions and you want to let someone know? Like that whole thing of, well, just ignore them. It's like it's a little hard to, especially when you are forced to interact with them.
みじんたりとも気にしないわよ。けど、明日からどんな間違いをしでかすのか、ちょっと心配なだけ。
I mean, he did just about jump out the window. What she was really worried about was having to clean up that mess if and when that happened. That had to be it. If not, she would have no real idea why she could not get him out of her head. You know, just ignoring that one thing that it could be, right? Just ignore it.
とにかく変なやつなの。案外アリスと気が合うかも。
三問異界はいい言葉ね。
Oh yeah, you are weird. But from her eyes, it was clear that the question of whether they would get along was irrelevant, given that they would never meet in the first place. Aoko gave a non-committal response. Oh, that's irony right there.
ところでアリス、
Because we
さ
know.
っきから何読んでるの？
Literally, the splash screen when you start the game is all three of them together.
霊的進化論の二次創作。スピリチュアルダイアリのまがいもの。
ああ、スウェーデンボリー。
So this is real.
そんなの今更読んでも仕方ないんじゃない？
I remember that from the comments. People were like, no, this is a real book. It's a real thing.
新書なら退屈だけど、これは偽書だから。彼の欠点と長所を劇的に褒め上げている。よくできた冒険小説のようよ。立ちはだかる秘密組織の名前がカントとか気が利いているわ。筆跡はあなたのおじいさんのものだけど。
Okay, so that definitely makes me feel like the girl in the opening was Aoko. Because I'm still a bit, we don't know, right? But okay, another grandfather mention.
あの人そういう趣味まであったんだ。割とユーモアがあったのね。惜しい人を亡くしたわ。
Aoko seemed nostalgic over her now deceased grandfather.
あなたのおじいさん、夏に頼りをくれ
Oh,
たけ
he
ど。
just died.
よしてよ。死んだものと考えたいのに。
Aoko sighed and laid back on the sofa. The soft cushions caved in under her weight.
話は戻るけど。
Alice shot a glance at Aoko. Her body, buried in the sofa, remained as still as a corpse. It was clear Aoko had tuned out of the conversation. Alice silently chastised her with a look. The more she thought about it, the less important the events of the day seemed to become. If she just ignored Alice, the conversation would end there. They would eventually get up and leave today's mistake unresolved for another day. However, that's not the kind of person Aoko Ozaki was.
いいわよ。何？
She asked, still lying down.
今日できなかったのは少し痛いわね。
だから反省してるって。学校優先は一人前になってからでしょ。
She's talking about the clock tower, right?
ならいいけど。
The coldness in her voice made Aoko gnash her teeth. She knew what Alice wanted to say. She knew better than anyone. The veneer she wore for school was different than the way she lived at home. While it could be called hiding in plain sight, Alice thought it was silly. And what the silence told her was...
覚悟を決めろって言いたいのよね。あんたは。
basically saying pick a world to live in. If you want to be perfect at school, you can be perfect at school, but if you want to be a mage, you got to drop that. Today's failure was not a colossal one. She just happened to upset the delicate balance between her home and school lives, chasing one at the expense of the other. And yet that careless mistake was a clear sign of Aoko's lack of commitment.
アリスは関係ない。これは私が私で決めなくちゃいけないこと。
She'd only known for sure for the last year and a half, but she'd had a hunch for as long as she could remember. Make the choice and the day will come. It was little wonder that her morals and conscience had been stripped away. Aoko pushed herself back up. She was met by Alice's cold beauty and wordless gaze.
オッケー、アリス。来週中に決着をつけよう。それでいいんでしょ？
ええ、青子がいいなら。
Aoko could not help but shake her head, feeling like she was hearing something similar for the second time that day. Even in the comfort of her own, she couldn't banish the thoughts of that. Comfort of her own home, you mean? I'm guessing? Might have dropped a word there. She couldn't banish the thoughts of that country boy from her mind.
じゃあ、下準備はよろしくね。私まだできないし。
場所は例の公園でいい？
妥当な線ね。あ、でももう一軒の方は？
There's a ley line at the park, got it.
そっちの方が急務じゃない？
時と場合、森に変化があれば教えるわ。
After that brief exchange, Alice returned her attention to the book on her lap. Shop talk was over. Now they could return to their normal relationship as roommates. And they were roommates. Aoko grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. Since Alice was busy reading, Aoko decided to tune into a variety show that had already started. Alice started to speak, but suddenly cut herself off. One of her delicate hands raced to her mouth. She would always cut herself off the second she realized she was about to say something trivial. Sometimes her self-restraint would hit too late, and she would make a gesture like the one she was making now. It occurred to Aoko that the ah sound her cute little roommate made was just different than the wah she blurted in times past.
Nani?
Aoko turned down the volume on the TV, her intense eyes lit up like that of a mischievous cat.
どうということはないんだけど。
ないんだけど?
I love her expressions, they're so good. Alice looked away bashfully, not knowing if she should bring it up or not. It was times like these that her expression carried a real warmth and surprising charm. If he could see her in this moment, Alice's father would admit to her that her name suited her perfectly.
今日、帰ってくるときおかしなものを見て、
Right.
誰かに話す。
I remember her saying something very strange here. Aoko nodded, beckoning her to continue.
つまらない。ほんとけど、どう考えてもそんなことをする理由がわからない。青子。人間ぐらいの大きな猫がひょこひょこ出前をする理由って。
This tracks now. This actually tracks. We might have an idea. For a second, Aoko thought Alice was trying and failing miserably to make a joke again. One would think that about anyone, really. But she seemed completely serious. Even if Alice's sense of humor fell flat for Aoko, this story already sounded more fanciful than Alice's usual attempt at jokes. Aoko concluded that her roommate was talking about something she had actually seen.
その話には2つぐらい信じがたい部分があるけど、1つずつ論破していい?
It's one of my favorite things to do when someone says something stupid. I just go, all right, let's listen to what you said. Let's break down why it's stupid and wrong. Let's start from the top, and then I pull out like a sheet and a PowerPoint I had already prepared.
いいの。私もからくりぐらいは思いつくから。
No, we gotta workshop this.
ただ、理由がわからないから聞いてるの。わざわざ精巧な猫のぬいぐるみを着て、出前のてんやものを届けに行くことって、そんなに簡単かしらね。
You gotta have a gimmick. You gotta have a gimmick in this day and age. And it's not even this day and age. This is like in the past. I didn't even think about, like, aside from pizza, food delivery was like not a thing in my mind back then. And yet it's like everything now. I think just Canada was late to the party on that.
難易度以前にそれをやる人間の常識性を疑うけどね。
Alice nodded tentatively at her words.
まあ、世の中いろいろあるから。私たちみたいなのもいれば、下界から遮断された山奥で暮らしていたやつまで10人十色よ。
she's so aggressive about like, hey, we're weirdos that do like magic and stuff, but I mean we're nothing like those freaking furries.
私だったら見かけたら声かけて理由を尋ねただろうけど。
I'm like hyper conscious that like every single comment and joke that I've said, I've literally repeated verbatim from the demo, and it's going to drive me nuts. You're gonna like, you could literally probably do a comparison of my thoughts on the demo and my thoughts on the stuff that we're seeing here, because I'm not 100% sure where differences are, where they line up, but you could like compare them side by side and just literally listen to the gears turning in my head and compare like my reaction times to jokes. Please don't psychoanalyze me. Please. I'll go crazy. Alice's gaze drifted at that.
暮れゆく住宅街にさまよう出前ね。
It's very Ghibli.
背景が夕焼けだったらファンタジーだったでしょうに。
Actually, like Kiki's delivery service would be like releasing around this time, right?
で、今日の夕飯どうする？せっかく話が出たし、私らもてんやものにしようか。
Aoko loved getting takeout, and her face glowed as she spoke. They had no hard rules for dinner, but if one of them was in the mood to cook, they made it a point to make enough for two. At the very worst, this meant entire weeks without dinner, but the two of them agreed that this was the system that worked best for them. Whether they found cooking to be too much effort or simply liked ordering out, nights like this one were a common occurrence, much to the chagrin of the restaurants of Misaki Town. Delivering to the mansion meant coming all the way up to the top of the hill, a source of their disgruntlement. And there's no tips. Remember, no tips in Asia. And let me tell you, again, I might have already said this, it's the best thing about moving. Oh my god, the fact I never have to tip. Things are the price that they're meant to be. Which I guess in this case is bad, because then they don't get the extra money for going up the hill. I'm sure they wouldn't refuse a tip, though. But then at the same... Well, no, actually, I think it's actually rude to consider tipping. Never mind. The Hungry Student Council president took o'er their many menus and excitedly looked for anything that stood out. I'm going to point out any and all typos and mistakes. One, because I'm an English teacher. Gotta. And two, just on the off chance some guy who's like, I was one of the localization people on Mahoyo, and I'm going to watch your video, just so that I could point that out, and so that he can be like, all right, I'm going to send that off for our next patch. It's like, no way it's going to happen, but Alice casually responded without sparing so much as a glance. Oh, epic fail. Wah wah. With those words, Aoko froze. All deliveries required a minimum of 2 items, so she was out of luck with it. Just get extra so you can have leftovers. Cruel Society had decided it couldn't be bothered to deliver to a princess who only ordered a single serving of food. Get 2, and then have stuff for tomorrow. Incidentally, to counteract orders from the Hilltop Mansion, the restaurants had declared the minimum number of orders will be 3 starting next year. Aoko and Alice were still in the dark to this fiendish change in direction. Well, the good news is they're getting a new person to help out with that. Unfortunately for Aoko, she had been out too out of it to even remember that she was the one who'd fallen asleep. I like the little leitmotif they're using here, because this is the main menu theme. This is if we go to this, right? It's this one here, which let me tell you, this is a very good menu theme. Let's wait for it to go, right? Because we got to listen to the actual the main line, right? Here it goes, right? In a second, just give it a second here. It's coming, right? 1, super lovely. I would absolutely, if I could, set this as the main theme for the console. But 2, right? We got little quirky remix. I love it. It was unknown how serious Aoko was being, but she was visibly angry. She had already woken up hungry that morning, and from the time she was called in school till now, she would consume nothing but tea. It was a small miracle that her stomach was not growling. She knew it was her own fault, but she persisted, wanting to get revenge on Alice for scolding her earlier. Don't knock the convenience store chicken. Aoko had kicked a hornet's nest. Alice's icy gaze pierced right through her. That's also a cute outfit. Aoko had certainly crossed the line by going on and on about how the sushi circled around the restaurant while Alice ate her convenience store meal. But new things fascinated her, and so she couldn't contain her curiosity towards the conveyor belt sushi shops that started popping up at the time. They were nothing short of miraculous. Even honesty can be a sin, given the right circumstances. Alice went back to her book without so much as recognizing the question. The fact that she did not confirm it made Aoko anxious. When in doubt, rice, a little bit of garlic powder, Throw in some sesame seeds, maybe some chopped up, if you have any just dried seaweed. Throw that in, add some soy sauce. Hey, it's simple, but if you really want to get fancy, put in an egg. And that's all you gotta do. It's a nice little quick meal. She stood up announcing her intent to no one in particular.
聞き忘れてた。アリス、どこで夕食済ませたの？
Alice's hand froze on her current page. She suddenly shut the book she was reading and stood up as if at wit's end. She walked across the drawing room with her book in hand. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned toward Aoko.
聞きたい。
まあ、なんとなく。
Aoko nodded timidly, cowed by Alice's sudden vigor. Alice continued in her matter-of-fact way.
その猫が余ったメニューをくれたのよ。
With that brief response, she left the room. It doesn't have to be normal. Little happening of last night. So, okay, oh, it does say. That's good. So I can save. I'm going to save there. But, so people said, hey, go to the archive because the archive has extra stories. So we go to the archive. So let's see here. So we got chapter 1.5. So these are chapter 1, chapter 1.5. Okay. 7 days. So this is good. The fact that it's kind of put here, 7 days of spinning. Sure. Morning in the city moved incredibly fast. It made one wonder if it was morning at all, with people so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I thought only my dad said that. It's like a saying that my dad said. Also, yo. The unfamiliar roar that awoke him reminded him of a rock slide. The identity of the monstrous sound was the engine of a motorcycle. Mr. Yoshida, his neighbor, was leaving for work. It was hard to determine when night ended and morning began here. The town's urbanization was synonymous with insomnia. Sometimes people get up early, and sometimes they have to do weekly COVID tests. He sluggishly lifted himself off the floor. He caught himself starting to survey his surroundings out of habit for deciding better of it, and made his way to the washroom. There, he poured himself a cup of water and slowly gulped it down. Having been relegated to well water until recently, he found the convenience pleasing. Pleased was definitely the word that best described how he felt. Civilization is about erasing inconveniences through optimization, the reduction of labor in our daily lives. Mr. Koga had taught him that while the essentials were easier than ever to get their hands on, life itself is growing more and more complex. That is very true. That's why many people retreat out of the city, just to go back to when time could be so much more simpler. So too was it his duty to adjust to his new reality. As a distant relative of Sojiro's father, Mr. Koga had taken Sojiro in, even though the boy had been little more than a stranger in his life to that point. Okay, so Sojiro does have a father, so my idea of him being the reincarnated cat is probably not a real thing. Mr. Koga had helped him get registered at school and find an apartment to lease. Though he had insisted that Sojiro handle his residence card and register his change of address by himself. This series of procedures proved exceedingly difficult for Sojiro, but knowing that this was part of his new life here, he did his best to complete them diligently. While they may have a reputation for being a stickler for the rules, city offices aren't all that bad. It was the first thing Sojiro learned after beginning his life in the city. I'll say this, having moved to Asia, boy, the city offices are way scarier and not as nice. Like, there's a level of officialness that is way scarier than back home. 2 weeks had elapsed since he left the countryside. As uneasy as living alone made him feel, he felt he could make it work. It was not as if the people here spoke another language. Could you imagine that? Moving to another place where nobody speaks your language and living alone for your first time? Could you imagine? That'd be wild. And Mr. Koga was absolutely right about how practical the rules of the city were. Thank God for translation apps. I would have died by now if not. Sojiro continued down the hard but surprisingly walkable path. Before work, he jogged into the park to pass. This looks exactly like the park I went last night. Even exercise like this offered lessons for Sojiro to learn. Each passing person was a new face to look at. The old man who greeted him, the young worker with his eyes to the ground, and the girl on the bench surrounded by birds. They were all unfamiliar sights to Sojiro. Unaccustomed to the city, he labored to understand its rules. Whether they were complex or simple, or completely meaningless, compared to mountain life, which only dealt with nature, city life left one with way too many options. You could argue that such an environment was toxic for Sojiro. His life was a string of unsettling moments, but amongst it all, there were rules that he seriously admired. For one, that the city revolved around various forms of profit and loss. The fact that one only needed money to get bare essentials to survive in the city was a comforting thought to Sojiro. He's like, yo, this capitalism thing, it's kind of comfy. I can live with that. Look, is that a little Kombini? I don't know, is this his restaurant? Who's this dude? Kinomi? Is that the restaurant or your name? You have bright red hair.
金なんてものはあくまで記号で、本当に大事なのは別にあんだからさ。所詮は流動する肩叩き券と変わんねっつうが、別に1万円札食ってもうまくねっつうが。ともかく金で真心は買えねえじゃん。
Okay, those are fair points.
じゃねえよ、ざけんなよ。俺は悲しいよ。
Is this dude gonna be our Hiko? Is he gonna be our boy?
ついこの間まで4000ポッチの日当に鹿みたいに首かしげていた正直者がくだらねえ皿洗いをしながら、まあ世の中金だよね。なんてボソッと言わないでくれっつな。
Oh. So I know there's a lot of people saying like, you know, it's like voice acting kind of loses some of the charm of reading, which I mean, if you believe that, then more power to you. Personally, I like to hear because there's a level of character for characters like this which you get a lot of in the voice acting.
いや、貨幣制度は素晴らしいと思う。正直物々交換の限界を感じた。
Oh, you come from a barter economy. Oh, wow.
それより
Kinomi, that's his name. Okay. It is on him.
おお、やべやべ。次割ったら今度こそ俺の頭が割られちまうからな。忠告サンキュー。それで相談事？何？もしかして金？
He feels to me like a more... One, I just noticed his forehead. You got hair under there, right, bro? You do? It's just pulled back? Let's hope so. But two, he's kind of like... He gives me vibes of like an actually reliable bro. Like, I would not call Arihiko in any way a good person. He's kind of horrible, especially his comments on bestiality. What's up with that? That is just... when I showed that to the Discord, everyone was like, what the frick? What do you mean that? And then I'm showing them, they're like, we don't remember this. I'm like, yeah, well, he's saying it. And they're all like, oh my god. But no, this guy seems like he's pretty okay. He seems like he's a bit of a jokester. Seems like a good head on his shoulders.
そうなんだ。とりあえずお金は大事で、たくさんあるに越したことはないって痛感した。なんで、できればもうちょっと働きたい。
Haha, he just like me for real. He just like me for real. Who works a 9 to 5 days a week job, but then also tries ways of making money on the side, because if you don't have money, you don't feel comfortable. And even if you have lots of money, then you still don't feel comfortable because you want to feel comfortable, and you gotta work. Just like me for real. Yeah, for real.
世の中金じゃねえって言ったばかりじゃんか。やっぱラブじゃんか。ところで水冷たくないですかね。冬場の皿洗いって割り合わねえことこの上ねえよな。
Wait, you saying love can buy happiness? I don't know about that. I don't know. I feel like money can buy happiness more than love can. Maybe that's just me.
そりゃ冷たいけど、これぐらいは我慢しないと。山の水は冷たいっていうより痛かったし。
If you've never felt mountain water, it is ridiculous.
氷水と同じにすんな野生締め。しかしあれだね。呆れた順能力。いや、忍耐力っつうの。レジ打ちすらできなかった新人がよ。 たった4日でしみったれた飯屋の社畜になっちまうなんて、やっぱ世の中金ってことかね。資本主義ってすね。
I like this guy.
うるせえぞバカバイト。文句あんならやめちまえ。うちにはごくつぶしにくれてやる小遣いはねえ。
The complaints and chopsticks flew at them like a storm. This mess of a Chinese restaurant manager was a stubborn man who was willing to let minors work for him and didn't shy from violence, even if it was directed at the son of a lifelong friend. Okay. Sojiro felt that this is what Sparta must have been like. There was probably a bit more men doing each other, but you're pretty close.
ほら怒られた。任されたことはきちんと。
Oh my god, he's just so... How do you say it? Like,
優等生。こっちは何かと反抗したい年頃だっつもん。
like this dude's like, I want to live my life. And Sojiro's like, well, I mean, if I'm told I have to work, I have to work.
まあいいや、話は変わるんだけどよ。しずき夜に出歩くタイプ？それかチャリンコで出張る趣味？いやまあどっちかでいいんだけど。
Are those the two types of guys? You're either a late night stroll or a bike guy? Frick, what am I? Well, I mean, I guess I'm a late night stroll guy. I've been going on a lot of late night walks. That's how I ran into that soap land yesterday. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to see, okay? Played Yakuza. I wanted to know. I was curious. The host club I didn't go to, though. I found one here. I'm not going to.
バイトの帰りはほとんど夜になるけど、そういう話じゃないんだよな。夜の散歩も遠出も趣味じゃないけど、それが？
Honestly, late night city walks are the most aesthetic thing.
いや何さ、しずき引っ越してきたばかりだって言うからよ。俺らが言うのもなんだけど、うちちょい治安が悪いっての？柄が悪いわけじゃねえんだけどな。年間10人くらい通り魔事件っての？そういうの起きてっから。
Really? Huh.
通り魔ってなんだ？
そっからかよ。なんだほら、カバン強盗でもないか。辻斬りってのが近いのか。住宅街とかまだ森が残ってる方によく出やがるんだよ。そういうおかしいのが。
That's how you know when this game is set. The fact that gnarly is in the text.
なんで、あんまり夜遅くは出歩くなよな。三崎岡の公園とか有名な怪奇スポットだから。通り魔の犯人は口裂け女だったって話、知らねえか？
Oh, isn't that like a yokai? I think so.
ごめん。まずその口裂け女ってのがわからな
Yeah,
い。
Kuchisakeona. Yeah.
階段だよ。口が耳まで裂けてるってやつ。今じゃさすがに時代遅れだけどよ。
We're not getting into Wallachia stuff in this, are we? Huh.
なんだっけ？深夜の道にな、コート姿の女が待ち伏せていて。
Right. She
私
asks
綺麗とか聞いてくるんだよ。
yeah, she asks, am I beautiful? If you say yes, she tells you you're a liar and she kills you. If you say no, she gets mad and she kills you. You have to either not if you don't answer, then she kills you. You have to confuse her by saying by asking another question or asking her opinion of you. I only know this because for school, I had students do research on one superstition, and a lot of them picked Kuchisakeona because probably one of the first ones they could find when they looked it up.
で、綺麗って言っても、いまいちって言っても家まで追っかけられて殺されるの。女の少年はおっかねえっつうか、アメコミの怪人っぽいっつうか。
No? What? That's a weird thing. What do you mean American comic book? No. It's more yanderis in Japan, bro. At this time, the women looked like they were drawn by Rob Liefeld, which is not that.
いや、
Well, that's a
それ
monster of its
本
own
気で怖
right.
くないか？家まで上がってくるのか、その女の人。
窓から入ってくるらしいぜ。ガサガサとこうゴキブリみたい。ギャ
のクソガキが厨房でその4文字は禁止だってんだろう。殺すぞ。
Yeah, I feel like it's bad luck to ever say cockroach in a kitchen. The back of Konomi's head exploded in pain with the impact of the boss's frying pan. Oh, he did a Princess Peach move. Sojiro was reminded of just how dangerous this town could be.
殺すってバカじゃねえの。普通そっちの方が禁止用語じゃねえの。
I was gonna say.
なんだしさ。いや、あんまうまくねえけど。
木の実、頭大丈夫か？
え？ああ、うん。心配無用。俺なんだか頑丈さには定評があるから。
Well, with a forehead like that. Alright, I'd hope you are.
ともかく、そういうわけなんで。
I need to see you without your hat. I need to know.
見るからにカモそうな顔してるし。
I need to see without the hat that you have hair and you're not just like completely bald on the top.
ありがとう。ところで、年間10人というのは多い方なのか？
I feel like that's a fair question, actually. Like, if you just moved to the city, that, I don't know. Like, when you compare the capita of the city, like, is that a lot? Yeah. I think that's, yeah, that's fair. It's an amount.
うちの通り魔事件が他に比べて厄介なのはまだ犯人が見つかってないってことだからね。
He laughed cheerfully. Kinomi was probably trying to take the edge off his story, but the noble intention of his laugh was completely lost on Sojiro. His friendly warning was equally futile. Sojiro was simply impressed that Kinomi was able to laugh it off. On the way home, nobody ahead or behind, Sojiro proceeded through the dimly lit street when suddenly, he turned to face an improbable sound. Something stabbed him in the head, and he fell to the floor. He frowned. A small bird had apparently flown into the telephone pole before landing on his head. The starling cleaned itself off and flew away. The falling of the bird, and its desperate escape thereafter, was unlike anything he had experienced in his life up till now. Most of the townsfolk would have seen the incident as unlucky, ominous, or even sinister, but Sojiro just nodded and went about his business. You understand. What might have been a first for him was surely an everyday occurrence for these city folk. Oh, that was one. Oh, that was one. Oh, these are extensive. Nice. It's good that they tell you when they unlock.
たったいまー。ねえ、アリス帰ってる？
What a nice little living room at this time. Well, I guess not a living room, it's a foyer. Or, foyer or foyer if you're American. If you're American, it's a foyer. But if you're, like, cultured like the rest of the world, you know it's a foyer.
教会から帰るとき、商店街でお土産もらっちゃった。伊勢屋のせんべい、一緒に食べない？
Okay, my eyes lit up when I saw the word arcade, but I have to realize that no, when they talk about arcades, because they call them game centers, the ones that we would call an arcade is just like the open sort of mall. Her voice reverberated throughout the foyer, dyed in the colors of the setting sun. It was after 5 in the afternoon when Aoko, still in her school uniform, cheerfully returned home. She had finished her student council duties and attended her monthly meeting with the church. So if she's working with the church, she must be like, is she the head mage of this area? I guess Huh.
おかえりなさい。その様子なら何事もなく終わったみたいね、青子。
The voice was coming from the second floor. In contrast with Aoko and her boundless energy, a considerably calmer girl descended from above.
難癖はつけられたけど滞りなく。うちの問題はうちの問題だから、今回も手は出さないって方向でまとまったわ。それでいいのよね、アリス。
ええ。猫の手なら借りたいけど、あの人たちの手は信用ならないし。いつも通り、後処理だけお願いしましょう。
Nice to see the relationship between mages and the church is about the same as ever.
賛成。後ろからバッサリやられかねないしね。だいたい、私もあんたも背中を気にして没頭できるからじゃないし。
私はできるけど。青子は単に、まだそれほどの余裕がないだけでしょ。
Tap tap. With the graceful sounds of her steps, Alice entered the foyer. As she did, Aoko's eyes were directed toward the skylight above.
ガラス曇ってるわね。
Oh God. God, that reminds me, my grandparents have a what I would call very similar to this sort of house. Grand foyer entrance, big glass thing to let light in, and like it's so high up where that glass is, you're not getting up there. And there's been days where they're like, yeah, we need to wash it. I'm like, well, what do you do? And so doesn't my grandpa bring out this like 3-story tall ladder? He's like, oh, you just go up. And me being afraid of heights, just poop my pants right there. I didn't do it. I said I can't do that. I said, nope, that's not happening. He said, that's okay. You don't have to. See, that's good. That's a nice grandpa.
そのことで話があるわ。今日の課題が終わったらだけど。
When in doubt, just use a super soaker.
青子、体の調子は？疲れているなら休みを入れてもいいけど。
何よ気味悪いな。気遣いされることなんてないってば。いつも通りの一日だったし。そんな疲れた顔してる？私。
As school activities went, today's were a breeze. At a glance, her school life might have seemed almost idyllic. Though the more she thought about it, some headache-inducing incidents may have stood out here or there. And with some introspection, Aoko had recognized that the signs of her own mental fatigue. I might have recognized the signs of her own mental fatigue, but doing so would only further add to her stress.
ストップ。なんで帰ってきてまであんなののことで疲れなくちゃいけないんだ、私。今日の課題って初歩のウィッシュでしょ？
ん？
問題ないわ。すぐ始めましょう。今日はなんか勢いでうまくいきそうな気もするし。
Mesmerize basics? Wish? What is this? Aoko focused on shedding her anger and stress and headed upstairs with
ど
gusto.
うしたのよ？アリスの部屋でやるんじゃないの？
The formally dressed Alice nodded in slight dissatisfaction.
それで、伊勢屋のせんべいって今日の？
She looked at the freshly baked treats Aoko was holding. Fresh arcade food is like delish. I grabbed some nan bread bits, like cooked nan bread. I'll grab those on the way. Oh, so nice. In the end, the lesson took place after Alice had her cup of tea. For an apprentice like Aoko, Alice Kuonji was the kind of roommate and teacher that was hard to come by. If she insisted that Aoko rest to preserve her health, Aoko had no choice but to comply. The lesson was over after 2 hours, so the two finished the dinner they had prepared and decided on a change of venue for where they would spend the last hours of the day. Oh, this room is so beautiful. Oh, it's the song I gotta remove again. I'm just removing it from now on. If they're speaking, it's gonna be unvoiced. I apologize. I'm not editing around it. The sunroom was next to the drawing room in the east wing of the residence and offered a view of the beautiful grounds. The proud Kuonji Estate's luxurious sunroom featured furnishings on par with those in the splendid drawing room. Meanwhile,
来年の夏はジャングルね。この分だと。
the grounds outside had fallen into disrepair, neglected by the owner.
ねえアリス、庭掃除専用のプロイとかいないの？
Ploy? Ploy? What's a ploy? Aoko took a step into the sunroom and poured some tea.
探せばいるかもしれないけど、少し手間ね。
What's a ploy? Playing along with her roommate's joke, Alice made to sit in her chair. Dragon balls? Does she... Oh, no. They're just chocolates. I thought those were a magic item. Just as she caught sight of the box of chocolates on the table, her lovely eyes narrowed in a frown.
何よ。言っとくけど、今日の失敗は半分アリスのせいよ。おせんべいで気が緩んだのが敗因っていうか、そりゃウィッシュのつもりがガンドになっちゃったのは。
Okay, wish is a spell. Wish is a spell. And Gander, I know what that spell is. I've never heard of wish.
6個減ってるわ。
なんだ、そっちのことか。
Aoko's eyes stared intently at the box of chocolates. You could search the world and never find a finer selection of chocolates. The brand was Sixpence Songs, apparently.
で、 鏡の話をするんだっけ？あれ、今洋館モードから岬モードになってるんでしょ？
Whoa, what does that mean?
ええ。ここの管理はおざなりになるけど、岬市だけに切り替えたわ。
Whoa.
それが昨日から曇り出している。
You have a magic mirror? I guess that makes sense if she's all fairy tale based.
少しずつだけど、確実に包囲されてるわね。
包囲って数が増えたってこと？
捕捉していた1名はもちろん、他にもう2名ほど不審者を目撃済み。都市部に1、郊外の森に2ね。
I just realized I'm listening to the words and you can't hear them. Okay, I might have to I might have to edit it so you can at least hear the speaking. I'll just find a way to do it.
はあ、あんたの目撃談は当てになるからな。で、うるさいのはどっち？
森の方。捕捉中だけど、こっちの目に気づいているみたい。なかなか誘いに乗ってこないわ。
そっか。じゃあ今夜仕掛ける？
To go after it tonight, one simple suggestion that would change the course of her life forever. It was no overstatement to say that this was a roll of the dice that would decide whether she had the moxie to survive the experience of jumping out of a plane with a torn parachute. Aoko swallowed her hesitation and fear with a little tea. On the school's anniversary night, she declared that she had made up her mind, and from that time on, she would not waver. Alice welcomed her roommate's strength with the barest hint of regret. As someone who shared the same motives as her, Alice was ultimately reassured by Aoko's resolve. Well, perhaps more pleased than reassured. All in all, it had taken her the better part of the year, but Aoko had finally stepped out of Alice's shadow. The two partners now shared the same fate. Aoko was not the partner Alice had asked for, but a partner nonetheless. Strangers, worlds apart, and even if eventually they would battle each other to the death using all they had inherited, wait, what? It was only right that they did it on equal terms. Wait, what? What about that part? It was at least for now a cause for celebration over how far Aoko had come. So I know that she doesn't die, though, because as far as I'm aware, Alice gets a mention in the Melty Blood DLC of Type Lumina. So we know she's alive by the end at least.
せっかくだけど、今夜は私一人で十分よ。
She mentions a bunch of characters apparently, and everyone was freaking out. Like literally, Melty Blood with the Aoko DLC just did like a welding the entire universe together sort of thing.
そんな余裕があるのなら、あなたはもう少し暗示の練習をするべき
Okay, so
ね。
mesmerize is a spell.
公演はあなたの担当だから、その時は働いてもらうけど。
Alice did not so much as look at Aoko as she explained her reasons. The scale of the enemies she would face that night, her plans for Aoko, for in only 2 days from now, Aoko Ozaki would be reborn.
はいはい、わかりました。
Aoko finished her tea and stood up from her seat.
お言葉通り、暗示の練習でもやってるわ。一節目は確か、軽く弱く、うまく早く、チクタクチクタク、急げや急げ、よね。
Can't believe we have a sound clip of Aoko saying TikTok, the video platform.
そこは、軽く弱く、うまく早く、急げや急げ、チクタクチクタク。よ。気をつけなさい。それだと逆に落ち着かなくなるわ。
そうだったそうだった。じゃ、一つ失礼。
Aoko grabbed a piece of chocolate and popped it into her mouth. She waved before leaving Alice alone in her silence. Alice stiffened a moment before slamming the box of chocolate shut as if it could serve to scold Aoko for snacking. That is, 6 pence, because there's 6 pence on there. It's British. Is this the one that we've read? Okay, is this the battle scene again? I think this is. We did read this one. This is a cool one, though, that hopefully now I have some more context for. And I can correct the one big dumb mistake that we got in the demo, which everyone pretty much called me out for.
おはようございます。午前0時を確認しました。
I'm real curious about these.
24時間経過。バックアップ開始。レコード送信。周囲の地形をスキャンします。大気成分 窒素異常なし、酸素異常なし、アルゴン異常なし、二酸化炭素異常なし、第5仮説要素異常異常異常あ
Mm-hmm.
り、周囲の時空連続体に齟齬確認、第一種危険物との遭遇と断定、視覚領域を主観から客観に変更、自律回路を予備電源に、計測回路を主電源に変更、カメラを赤外線計測から虚数線計測に変更。ではこれより戦闘行為の記述を開始します。主よ、どうか我が身を守りたまえ。
Still don't know what this is, you know? Ah, beautiful though. Oh, beautiful. Misaki City was a thickly wooded area. Urban development continued unabated, but Mother Nature still drew breath in its outskirts. Wise old trees, the memes that you see online, had been turned to lumber. The leaves had begun to turn to mulch. Even though the birds who curiously tilted their heads had moved on, the verdure lived on, a testament to its enduring strength. Until the time came that the devouring light of civilization became powerful enough to encroach upon nature's mysterious domain. These woods were no exception. The outlying border between Misaki City and Misaki Hills had been left untouched. Though driven from their nests and dens here, wildlife continued to subsist even today, no longer able to return to the days before man. This was just like any other forest situated next to a town. Winter had arrived in the woods. The chill cut like a razor, the icy air so thick it reached one's bones. Exposed cheeks stiffened a little and wisps of breath formed swirls in the air before disappearing. It was 1 degree above freezing. The cold snap penetrated every nook and cranny of the woods, from the ground to the trees to the wildlife. The forest allowed nobody entry during the day. During the winter, it willed the animals to slumber. The still evening air felt like the stagnant breath of the lingering dead. The forest consumed the moonlight, obscuring the sight of even the closest of precipices, and hastening the untimely doom of any soul unfortunate enough to become lost within. The only noises to be heard were the whisperings of the wind and the murmurings of the stream. The immortal darkness stifled any sense of life. Not the breath of an animal, much less that of a person, was drawn in this place. However, a figure in black, not of this place, skulked within. It cast the tiniest, frailest of silhouettes, like a small boat lost in a sea of fog. Its trepidatious footsteps echoed through the woods. There, exiting the veil of trees, was the unmistakable likeness of a young girl. See, I don't remember that one line, to see such craft. The little dog laughed and the dish ran away with the spoon. I don't remember that line. Cow jumped over the moon. I'm gonna look this up. Okay. Hey Diddle Diddle by Mother Goose here. Let's see here. The official poetry foundation is Hey Diddle Diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Okay. So Wikipedia, what do you say? To see such sport. Okay. Oh, here we go. The earliest recorded version of the poem resembling the modern form was in 1765 in London in Mother Goose's melody with the lyrics. Yeah, it's the exact same. No, but this one is the fork ran away with the spoon. Huh. Very interesting. I actually really enjoy reading about the history of this sort of stuff because it's just things that we hear that we don't really think about. Like, we hear them as children, right? Like the Baba Black Sheep, how it's not about a sheep. If you go into reading that with modern knowledge, your brain goes like, okay, right? Like you might, right? Anyways, so yeah, let's continue.
来たぞ来たぞ。いるぞいるぞ。
Oh, I need to get a good look at what these things are.
誰が誰が？誰と誰が？お腹は減ったの？お腹は鳴ったさ。どっちが食べる？どっちも食べる。
So the second one would absolutely be voiced by Sarah Ann Williams in English.
君は左手。
Like the same voice.
歓迎しないと。感激しないと。何しろようやく楽しいお客。ついでにお腹と頸骨も。せっかくだからよく噛まないと。
The shadows in the trees laughed ominously. A hallucination? An illusion? Or perhaps something real? The shadows frolicked in time to the girl's pace.
さあさあさあさあ。もっと奥へ、もっと奥へ。ところでダイスは細工済み？お腹の重いローデット。端っこかじったエッジワーク。どうでもいいけど肝心要の6の目だけは出さないように。
If these are like a deep cut reference, not deep cut, I guess, but if these are a reference to the original Alice in Wonderland at all, I won't be making connections with it. I know so little about Alice in Wonderland. It's not something I was ever allowed to read as a kid, actually. Nor was I allowed to watch the Disney film. Because according to my mom's words, Lewis Carroll is a weirdo and probably liked little girls. Which, well, she wasn't wrong about that, at least. The girl knitted her eyebrows. She heard voices and felt the presence of things that should not be. Scary enough to frighten this particular girl? As if. Her tightly pursed lips betrayed not a hint of fear. The girl walked of her own volition. If she had truly felt fear, her legs would be frozen. Deep within the trees, she was perfectly aware of the two humanoid figures stalking her through the still night air.
見たぞ見たぞ。来るぞ来るぞ。もう諦めろ。もう帰れない。あんなに教えてあげたのに。よそに消えないお前が悪い。
The girl halted her steps. Racket from the accompanying voices died in turn. The babbling brook suddenly sounded like crackling fire. And then, across the shallow stream, something appeared that should not exist in the city, much less these woods. Yeah, we still don't really know what these are.
話のわかる人はいる？
Like, have an idea, but the girl addressed them calmly. These men with their Glasgow grins creeped toward her like two slugs.
そう。ただの墓守り。監視だけが仕事なのに。
Like, I have an idea, because if they're puppets, the puppets obviously would have a puppet master, and again, we probably know who a puppet master would be. But the question is more, why in that case?
失敗したわ。これなら青子に任せればよかった。ああ。
The one grinning man stood still. The others, shaking violently as if unable to contain himself any longer, turned toward the girl.
青子にはまだ荷が重いわね。そんな姿だけど、あなたたちは一人前の魔術師のようだし。
Her black outfit stirred. In her right hand she held a vitreous cat, darker than the deepest night. The two Glasgow men let out a yelp of caution and incoherent fear. It was at this moment they finally bared their intent and their emotion.
さようなら、お客様。きっと一瞬だろうから。お別れだけ言っておくわ。
The two shuddered at her words. They had no mouths, nor ears or brains to begin with. For creatures like these, words were redundant. All that existed was the present. For these soulless creatures, fears and hopes were nothing more than an unimaginable future. Then what could be this feeling of foreboding they felt? The spine-chilling miracle that would rip them to pieces not moments from now.
さあ、 ごっこ遊びをしましょう。お
Her song sounded like a bell, echoing through the white woods. The girl's voice vanquished the frost that had gripped the trees. Then... yeah, they're just weird. The curtains opened on Diddle Diddle, the banquet of the night. In confusion, one slit-mouthed man swooped toward the... oh, slit mouths! Ah, okay, that's why they were talking about Kuchisake Ono before. In fear, the other fled the woods behind him. The deformed humanoid darted forth, kicking up water as it rushed the girl. She already knew what this fiend was. The grinning figure had scissors for hands and a demon's heart. It was a wretch who kidnapped children, mercilessly rendering them into pieces.
Tweedle.
God, it's so good. The piglets bounded and rebounded like paddle balls. The stuffed animals, over 3 feet in length, jumped and weaved their way between the trees. God, peak visual novel. Even with these strange creatures before him, the grinning man did not so much as blink. He raised his arms, but what emerged from his coat sleeves were not the human appendages you would expect. In their place, fiendish cleavers, more than 1.5 feet in length. These appendages, which had worn so much their prey to pieces, sliced cleanly through the flying pig's skulls. His limbs froze in place. The pig's bodies were sliced perfectly in half. And then, bisected from head to tail, the pig's innards became as alligator jaws and clamped down on the grinning man's arms. From fingertips to shoulders, they were swallowed whole. It was all it took to rob the man of control over his entire body. Another shiver of fear. These were no mere pig familiars. Immediately, he realized that they were stapler monsters disguised as mere pigs. Another one. I was like, isn't it falling down? No, the original is apparently that it was broken down. Impossible, its presence murmured 3 times. Not possible, not possible, not possible? Talking pigs were one thing. Even having one's arms chopped off was in the realm of occupational hazard. In an instant, the wood was enveloped in a dense wave of magical energy. I forgot what she does, and it's so cool. I just remembered. Though vexing, it was still impressive. None of these facts were particularly extraordinary. These rare familiars, their bizarre attack, and the sheer innate magical energy to overwhelm others. He had experience with all these things. His employer was skilled enough to achieve all this as well. Now that's interesting. What do you mean by that? However... what were they? Not vessels. Not living creatures. Not beings powered by magic circuits. Even though only his arms had been bitten, none of his body would move. It was nothing like being bound or weakened. This felt more like he had become words written in a book, fated to keep to their page. As the grinning figure's deformities indicated, he had overcome numerous curiosities and monstrosities. Illusions, enthrallment, compulsions, freezings, putrefactions, and even petrifications, a power granted to only the pinnacle of mystic eyes. From poisons to magecraft he had weathered a great deal, but this was something different altogether. The penalty that bound him now was based on different principles from blood, flesh, oxygen, or heat. It was an unknown restraint that followed no rules he knew. Indeed, though it was terrifying to admit, it was as if he'd encountered something alien to everything in this world. Oh, here we go. Fang sank into his left and right shoulders. For the first time in this form, he felt rage seethe up inside him. The basis of all things had to be absolute. All mystics, all things bizarre, obeyed some set of laws, but these pigs ignored this along with his dignity.
さあ3日で衰弱
6日で溺死。
半年経てば惨めな骸骨
でもご無礼。
面倒だから今殺そうか
A howl. Though he had no voice, he let out an exasperated scream.
なんて便利自分の腕を外せる機構
お前こそ三国一のものの不要。
The talkative pigs fell into the stream. That exasperated scream was the sound of the figure tearing his arms from their sockets. Armless, he rushed the girl.
役立たず。後でお仕置きが必要ね。
Aw, here we go. He may have lost his mangled arms, but not the object of his malice. So, okay, these were the eyes of the dude, right? A mystic eye to pierce the heart of its victim. A magic circuit designed to stop a beating heart. It was beautiful in its simplicity. At point-blank range, it was the equivalent of an unavoidable shotgun blast. But, tragically, that eye was all he had. Did it go into her eye? Because her eye was red there for a bit. Oh god, it's so cool. It's so cool. He failed to realize that her song had changed. God, it's so cool. For the giant, the earth-shattering strike was akin to the act of shooing away an insect. Its green, verdant veins pulsed. Oak and bark covered its body, hardened sufficiently over centuries to repel even a chainsaw. On its forehead, inscribed in all manner of colors, was the word Emeth, though judging from its misspelling, the inscription was purely decorative. Again, people were like, wow, I'm shocked that you put together that that's a reference to Jewish golems, and I'm like, yo, I've been fate-brained. The Thames Troll. It also went by the moniker, Falling Down. So, the troll under the bridge is also what this is a reference to, right? Or alternatively, the Great Bridge. Admired in different forms, it was the first of 4 miracles. The giant responded to the girl's words. With roots rent deep into the earth, it raised its left arm to the heavens without moving a step. Elsewhere in the forest, the grinning figure who had chosen to flee the battle was running through the night forest at full speed. Record and provide a detailed description of the enemy. Those were the orders assigned to him. He poured all of his energy into escaping this forest with which he had become so familiar. In case of emergency, the plan was for one to challenge the enemy while the other made a tactical retreat in order to report it to their master. He dashed through the forest. Though gripped by fear, he was confident in his ability to perform the mission he was designed for. Nothing could catch him in these woods. Even the wolves could not track him. His bird-like legs thumped as they kicked the ground. Perhaps it was his creator's eccentric tastes that dictated their form while optimizing them for running. The grinning man could reach a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour, well past the limit of any bipedal creature. After securing a distance of several miles, he turned around to confirm his safety. There was no sign of pursuit. His crescent-shaped mouth-nace eye slackened in relief. Then, after facing forward once more, he looked up to lock eyes with his doom.
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
In the distance, he could hear the dark rhymes of Mother Goose. Countless vines extended from the ground. They formed into a monstrosity that conjured up images of an arched bridge, something resembling a giant arm.
London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady.
Oh my god, it's the bridge opening. That's super cool. That's super cool. It's super cool.
最終報告 生還は困難、解析は困難、転送は困難、状況を終了します。はあ。主よ、どうか
Yeah, so
この身を
I thought that was Toka. It's not. I like as in like Toka. It's not. If not, that was a mistake I made. But it still could be. Still could be related. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. God, that's cool. God, that scene is real cool. The girl turned on her heel. The invaders who had set up shop in the woods were eliminated. She had no interest in whether they had been good or evil, nor how many victims they had claimed. The shackles of civic society held no sway over her. This was the way of a pure-blooded witch. The way of a Meinster. Meinster. That's a word that's a new proper noun.
噛んだままだと僕らも動けないっていうかさ。ひどい。飛べない豚に用はないと。次はお役に立ちます、きっと。生まれてこの方、失敗続きの僕らだけど。壊れるまでに一度くらいは褒められたいね。
The girl let out a sigh and stepped into the stream. She removed her gloves and dipped her slender fingers into the ice water.
6の目は出すなって言うけど、6の目しか出ないようになってるわよね。
There was no response to her melancholy tone. In place of the once boisterous pigs were 2 black dice, now sitting in the palm of her hand. As the girl was about to say something to the scattered remains around her, she realized something that made her put her hand to her mouth.
お別れは済ませていたわね。目ぐらいは聞いておくべきだったかしら。
Her slender pale fingers traced her lips as if reluctant to part from them. Sighing again, she calmly left the dark woods the same way she had entered. Still some questions there. Still definitely some questions. Anyways, we now have the last of the chapters here. Side chapters. Let us rewind a moment to the recent past. The scene took place on Saturday morning in early December. That's yesterday, actually, in real life. With third period over just before lunch, the only activity that remained before the scholastic day ended was homeroom. That's a thing, if in case you don't know. Saturday classes only go till noon. 2 of Class C's students, Sojiro Shizuki, which I've been told is the proper pronunciation based on, and I was told the whole thing about Hepburn, which I didn't really know much about, so thank you to those who explained the Hepburn being the reason that we have this in Altria. Sojiro Shizuki and Hosuke Kinomi. Hosuke. Okay. Were standing outside on the balcony overlooking the schoolyard. They were stuck waiting for their homeroom teacher, Mr. Kazuki Yamashiro, and could not leave until he arrived. The rest of their classmates were chatting idly in the classroom. Sorry, that looks just like Roa on the right. Class A's Tobimaru Tsukiji was killing time alongside them. The listless trio discussed their weekend plans as they leaned on the veranda's railing.
木の実はベアでアルバイトか
Oh, that's your hair.
働くかったよな。
Okay, I was worried about your hair, but you're fine.
明日はほら B 組の子たちと遊びに行く予定だったんだけどな。なんかうちから出られねえ。
それはつまりまた振られたのか
Dang. Oh my god, your hair.
言いづらいことをまっすぐ言うよね、しずきくんってば。
Dang. Is that real? Or do you have it dyed, bro?
そりゃ毎日てめえのバカ面見てればひよこだって振られるって言葉を覚えるだろうよ。自滅するのは勝手だけどな。くれぐれもその字に変な遊び教えんなよ。
Who is Sono G? Also, okay, you're... Okay.
はあ、 そりゃ殿下の方じゃねえの。気ぃつけろよしずき。築地はマジで腹黒いからよ。こいつの頭の中はほらあれゴミ捨て場の張り紙あんな
Dang.
感じだから、くっきり使えるもんと使えないもん分けてんだよ。
Dang.
ああ、それは知ってる。ところで唐突に思ったんだが、飛び丸の中じゃ木の実はどういう扱いなんだ？
Oh, playing with fire.
そうだな。粗大ゴミ回収は金でももらわねえと割り合わなくなるんじゃねえか。
That's strong.
国が無料で
That's
回
good,
収
that's
するの
good.
はそろそろおしまいってとこ。
はあ、何言ってんのお前。使い古しのタンスとか高く売れるじゃん。俺みたいな開封即使用みたいな男がこれからのトレンドなわけでしょ。ほらコンビニで売ってる使い捨てカメラとか大人気だし、ようやく流行が俺の消費文明に追いついたと。
Yeah, absolutely nothing will go wrong from expanding consumption culture. Nope, everything's fine.
じゃあ木の実はバイトと。飛び丸は？
来るからね、ちゃんと俺の時代。
俺はちょい仕様だ。親父の客が来てるんで接待しなきゃならん。街の案内をしてくれとさ。
Okay.
聞けよ、人の話聞けよ。あのよ、俺は妹の相手してやるだけなんだよ。隣のクソ中華飯店の手伝いなんかしねえよ。
その女は明日もバイトか？
Oh, that's your nickname for him.
いや、それが一日空いてる。
Sonoji.
今日はこれから遊園地でアルバイトだけど。
That's very strange.
それって魔のきついランド？
Magic Kitsy Land. That's a rough name.
タフだね、しずき。あそこのバイトは柔道部の連中でも値を上げるって話じゃんか。
なんと、まさか猫黒の荷物運びより辛い。
X-Fed? X-Fed? Wow.
いや、そこまではよく。
This game's throwing FedEx under the
しか
bus.
し、山城の野郎おっせえな。見ろ、隣の B 組すらお帰りになられてるぞ。
だな。仕方ね。面倒だが呼んでくるか。その字を遅刻させるわけにはいかねえし。
Probably some pun with Sonoji that I'm just completely missing. And as if by design, the moment Tobimaru Tsukiji stood up weirdly from the balcony railing, school's PA chime system rang.
2年 C 組のしずき宗十郎くん、山城先生がお呼びです。至急職員室まで来てください。繰り返します。2年 C 組の
An awkward silence fell upon the three. After a long 5 seconds, Sojiro said goodbye and headed back inside.
面白いことねえな。誰か校庭にミステリーサークルとか作ってくんねえかな。
You're just gonna say that, huh? Kinomi grumbled, slouching his shoulders and succumbing to his lethargy.
他人の妄想力に期待すんなよ。刺激が欲しいならてめえでイベントを起こせ。ほら、クラス分け発表の時よろしく。青崎に突っかかればすぐだぜ。
蘇るトラウマ、やだよ。会長の大立ち回りは面白いのを通り越して恐ろしいよ。
Oh, this is
占領が一大
interesting.
生徒としちゃ美少女が転校してくるだけでいいんだよ。まあ普通の子じゃつまんないからハリウッドのプロデューサーとかイギリスの歌姫とか。
どんなくくりだそりゃ。そこは火星のお姫様あたりにしとけよ。
Oh, you're a weirdo. See, I thought he'd just be the rich guy, but no, you're a weirdo. You're strange.
それと2年 C 組の皆さんへ山城先生から伝言です。山城先生は訳あってホームルームを欠席しますので、各自勝手に下校しちゃってくださいね。以上、放送室からお知らせしました。
どうよこれ。山城新車買ってからフリーダムすぎね。このままではあの真新しいセルビアに俺のギザ銃がうなりかねん。
鍵穴にガム程度にしとけ。教師の発給はマジ同情に値するからな。
Really? Even in Japan right now? That's interesting. The two frenemies returned to the classroom, complaining all the while. Their concern for their mutual friend summoned to the faculty office completely out of mind.
納得いきません。生徒のアルバイトは認められています。
Oh, is she batting for him?
学校公認の職場であるなら、社会経験の一環として推奨すると
そうなんだけどね。彼の場合、やりすぎなのが問題なわけで。仮にもし認可していない労働基準法に反してそうなところで働いてたら困るでしょ。うちも彼も。
Actually, he does have a point. Because if something went wrong, the teacher would be blamed. The volatile tension between the ruthless student council president and the easygoing modern language teacher permeated the room. Praying to be spared from the impending confrontation, the other teachers hurriedly relocated to the meeting room. By the time Mr. Yamashiro noticed this, the only other person in the room was the student council president, Aoko Ozaki.
逃げたか。ひどいな、みんな。怖いのは僕に押し付けてばっかりだもんな。
話の続きです、先生。仮に彼が指定以外のアルバイトをしているとしたら、それは彼の要求に学校側が答えていないからではありませんか。
Dang, she knows the language.
下宿先の家賃を奨学金で賄えとは言いませんが、時間の許す限り働きたいという要望は考慮すべきです。指定外のアルバイトを疑うのなら、まず働き先は1生徒につき1件だけという規則を改めてください。
After hearing her out and realizing there was no way she would back down, Mr. Yamashiro hung his head. This was supposed to be easy. The plan was just to call in the student room to be working multiple jobs, confirm whether the rumor was true, and if so, give them a warning and some guidance, then head to lunch with the knowledge that all was right in the world. The student council president, who was coincidentally in the faculty room at the time, heard the entire issue and decided to call out this injustice. As far as Mr. Yamashiro was concerned, she was in the right, and he was well aware of the aforementioned student situation. Personally, he would have liked to help, but among the faculty, he was just the new kid on the block. Oh god, this is too real. He wanted to stay on the vice principal's good side and at the very least not lose his job as badly as paid as it was.
こればかりはね。副教頭先生直々の注意なんで、僕も助けてあげられないんだよ。
God, I see both sides.
それでしたら、落としどころがあればいいんですね。
The student council president removed a document from her bag. It was a document that had been brought up in the morning's faculty meeting, bringing a host of headaches with it.
青崎くん、それは。
はい。間協会のボランティア参加の申告書です。今月も希望者ゼロですね。敬虔なクリスチャンである副教頭先生は、さぞお気を悪くしているかと。
That's just weird to read in a video game. I don't know. I feel like those words, like, I mean, yeah, of course it would be, but I just feel like this just hit a level of realism I haven't ever seen in a
我が校
game.
の生徒には新人が足りんと、今朝も嘆かれていたとか？
Huh.
そうだけど、どうして君が今朝の職員会議の内容を知っているか聞きたいよ、本当。
Mr. Yamashiro scratched his head, but his eyes were smiling gleefully. He had figured out the student council president's objective.
魚心あれば水心ありですか。教会への奉仕活動はボランティアだけど、きちんと謝礼が出る。あれも形の上では学校側が推奨する社会見学だからね。
Okay.
副教頭先生は参加者が出たことに喜び、加えて
その参加希望者がすでに他のアルバイトについていた場合、学校側の認可が2つになっちゃいますね。
Nice.
前例にしてはいい落としどころだと思いますが。
Mr. Yamashiro raised his hands in surrender. There were few students able to raise a complaint and propose a proper solution. Perhaps it was her big sisterly disposition that made this girl so simultaneously feared yet trusted.
よし、その方向で攻めてみよう。うまくいくよう祈ってくれよ。
他力本願は嫌いです。悪巧みに乗ってくれるのならきちんと活躍してください、山城先生。
With a bow, the student council president turned to leave the faculty room.
あ、待った待った。君も残るんだ。今からしずきくんを呼ぶから、ちゃんと面倒見てもらわないと。
は？
The girl's cool eyes narrowed. Unable to process what she just heard, her expression turned to a scowl.
いや、参加希望者は一人より二人の方
Oh,
がいいだろう。
dang.
青崎くんがフォローしてくれるなら、僕も安心だしね。
ちょっと先生。
Yo, he played the Uno Reverso.
あ、放送室2年 C 組のしずき宗十郎くん、至急職員室に来てください。で、放送お願いします。
だから先生。
いやー、これで万全だ。まさか頭痛の種が同時に消え去るなんて、今日はついてる。ああ、けど青崎くん、ずいぶん親身になってくれるんだね。何？もしかしてああいうのがタイプ？
Oh my god.
放送室さん、ついでに生徒会長が心からお待ちしていますと。
って山城。
Did you just hit him? Did you just smack the teacher? The next day, a pleasant Sunday. Sojiro was awake 2 hours before the time he was supposed to meet her. After getting up, he decided to go for a leisurely jog to clear his mind, but lost alone among his own thoughts, his 30-minute jog turned into almost an hour upon realizing he rushed home. After thoroughly racking his brain over what to wear to the occasion, he decided upon wearing his school uniform.
午前10時、三崎中央公園の東入り口で待ち合わせ。
Yesterday in the faculty room. When Aoko Ozaki had shared the time and place with him that day, she said it was such pain on her face. Maybe she was fighting a headache at the time.
しかし、青崎の風邪は治っているのだろうか。
Sojiro muttered, his words of concern misguided as they were. In any case, he waited for about 5 minutes. At precisely 10 o'clock, the student council president appeared.
おはよう。いつものことだけど、時間だけはぴったりよね。ひどい顔ね。もしかして気分悪いの？
いや、体調はいいと思う。
He waved off her concern.
しかし、青崎は制服だった。
Yeah, so are you, buddy.
ええ、学校の行事だもの。当然でしょ？
A heavy weight of despondency fell upon Sojiro's shoulders. The angsting over his outfit in the previous 2 hours had been rendered meaningless, just like that. The duo, clad in their school uniforms on a day off, walked by the train station. In the beginning, Aoko had made efforts to give Sojiro a thorough lay of the land, but today she only shared the bare minimum of explanations. It was partly because, surprisingly, Sojiro had become well accustomed to the town. Which restaurants were good, which shortcuts to use in a rush, and why the nearby bicycle shop was better than the department store by the station if you wanted to buy a bicycle. Things a local would know. But the other reason was because it dawned on Aoko how the two of them had been conversing might look to a passerby.
話は変わるけど、具体的にどんな労働内容なのか、そろそろ聞いていいかな。
From here on, volunteering at the church meant that the school would tolerate his multiple jobs. Sojiro had quickly agreed to the tempting offer, nodding like a bobblehead, but, as was typical for him, he had failed to consider the content of the proposal.
まあ、そんなことだろうと覚悟はしてたけど。あなた、間教会は初めて？
教会なら2回目だ。珍しい建物なんで近寄ったら、中の人がタダでお菓子をくれたんだけど。
Hey, buddy, you're a minor? Don't take the free candy from the priest. Unless it's actually a communion wafer, in which case it's really funny. He pondered with all sincerity how exactly a church worked. I guess he wouldn't know, right? His contemplative posture made him appear the part of a philosopher, but after all the thinking, he concluded, I guess I start taking your money on your second visit? Such was the extent of Sojiro's concern.
普通そういうことは子供にしかしないんだけどね、あの教会は。
Aoko sighed at the lost little lamb. That's also a Christian reference.
どんな人に会ったの？神父？それともシスター？
Oh, I want to see the sisters.
それは、綺麗な女の人だった。
Oh, I want to see the sisters.
じゃあユイカさんの方ね。今日会ったらお礼をって必要ないか。あんたのことだからそのあたりはきちっとしてるだろうし。
I want to see how they look.
仕事の話なら簡単よ。学校でやってることと変わらないから。あの教会、規模の割に人数が少ないのよ。
Are they gonna be like the in mass, the people who like bring up the candles and stuff? Aoko picked up the pace. They headed for the church. Oh, jeez. I got a cough for some reason. Somehow she seemed like a general invading enemy territory. It made Sojiro furrow his brows in discomfort. I mean, technically. I That's a nice church. Ida Church had a long history. Far from the station, it was a painted white sanctuary nestled between the business and residential districts. As far as Aoko could remember, the church, as she knew it now, was the result of remodeling done 8 years ago. It was practically a cathedral for a town of this size. Incidentally, located next to it was the Misaki City General Hospital. From Aoko's perspective, it seemed awfully suspicious for the church to take up residence next to the location in the city where the most lives were lost. Huh? Though the only two who were aware of his opinion were her roommate, Alice Kuonji, and the priest. You do know that churches sponsored hospitals all the time.
青崎はこの教会に縁があるのか？
私はこれっぽっちも。もう過去に戻って改ざんしたいぐらい微塵もないけど。うちの父と祖父は長い付き合い。
Dang, spoken like a real Redditor.
ここの手伝いなんて、忌々しいことに小学生の頃は毎日してたもんだけど。
Oh, big Reddit energy. The more Aoko spoke, the more twisted her expression became. Recalling this made her want to grab it by the proverbial collar, give it the proverbial one-arm judo back throw, smash its proverbial head into the proverbial ground, and kick the proverbial living daylights out of its defenseless proverbial torso. I think we're gone beyond Proverbs. Such was her so-called trauma that if it was anthropomorphized, it would take more than a 5-round beating to satisfy her thirst for vengeance. Dang! Aoko's a mod for our atheism. Me too, bud. It was in this moment, as he became aware of Aoko's mood, that Sojiro began to fear for his safety. Perhaps attracted by the noisy murder of crows outside the church, a woman in a nun's habit emerged from the front entrance. Please be cute, please be cute, please be cute. Okay. Yep. So here's the thing. I've lived among nuns for a large part of my life. I have multiple in the family. I've visited their residence. I've taught them how to use the computer. I've never seen a nun who isn't like at least 60 years old. I've never seen this beautiful idea of the young attractive nun in my entire life. They're just old, and just a shame, just a shame.
当教会は暴力団関係の方はご遠慮いただいておりますので、日を改める、あるいは生き方を悔い改めた後、社会的な罪を償ってから門をくぐっていただきたいのですが。
You do know that to repent we have to come here?
青崎青子です。シスターユイカ。まあ、青子さんでしたか。
You look remarkably like Skahawk.
驚きました。昼間のうちにあなたが来るのは久しぶりです。
そうですね。いつもは夜に呼ばれて神父様とだけお話をしていますから。まあ意外ですね。1年近くまともにお話をしていません。
Oh, this is people who don't like each other speaking.
この先だって一度もないでしょうけど。
His dumb little
あなたも
face.
随分と立派になられたようで、がっかりです。何より、今の気配は清らかな少女とは思えないほど悪辣でした。
So is she like an executioner, or she in the burial agency? Like, what's going on? Is she just a normal sister, or is she gonna start throwing black keys? On the surface, the two exchanged congenial greetings. Unable to read between the lines, all Sojiro could see was two good friends. That's the face of someone who doesn't understand social cues.
今月のボランティアは私とそこの彼です。親愛なる間協会のためですから。10時から3時まで1分の狂いもなくきっかり働かせていただきます。
Ooh, that's passive aggressive.
まあ、世も末ですが歓迎しますね。
Sorry, what? Oh, is it because it's like, okay. You're thinking about the Y2K?
神の家は万人に等しく開くもの。この際、あなたの内面は見なかったことにしておきましょう。
The nun flashed a smile that was equal parts elegant and cruel. Keeping up appearances aside, she seemed overjoyed to have able hands to put to work. But what are they doing? Oh my god, this is a real church. Like this is, I look at this and I'm like, I've been here. Like, this looks too real. Like, compared to the one in Fate where you're like, it's kind of funny, it doesn't look really... No, this is real. The sister introduced herself as Yuika Susei and thanked Sojiro, who had volunteered of his own volition. Sojiro noticed that her eyes were always shut. Oh, that's not an art style thing. Huh, but not wanting to be rude, especially in front of Aoko, he decided not to pry. See, I thought that was like just a drawn art style thing, but no, she's actually has them shut.
はあ、それはどうも。
The sister let slip a frown at Sojiro's ambivalent response to her compliment.
失礼。名字で呼ばれるのはお嫌いのようですね。宗十郎さんでよろしいですか？
え？いや、どっちでもいいですけど。
Name politics are something he does not care about, huh?
ではそのように。本当、難儀なことですね。
Though the sister's tone was gentle, her words seemed somewhat indifferent. She lacked sight. Oh. Oh, that's why she is blind. Okay. But she guided the two with certainty in her step. I thought it was some magic thing.
奉仕の内容ですが。分かってます。クリスマス前だし、面倒な掃除を済ませておきたいんでしょ?
Oh my god, Christmas is coming up.
問題ありません。そういうの得意ですから。
It wasn't their strong suit so much as it was Sojiro's.
では、青子さんはかまどの方で聖兵の作り置きを。
Can I just say, I don't think I've ever seen a video game actually talk about communion wafers. Like, it's just not something I would ever see in a game.
しずきさんは外に。私どもでは手の届かない箇所の清掃をお願いします。
Like, let alone a Japanese visual novel. Also, I didn't know you actually have to make them. Because I know you can bulk order them. You could just order those things and just have them for your own house.
ちょっと待って。台所にリツカのやついないでしょうね。
Ritsuka?
こんなところであんなのに会うなんてごめんだから。
Ritsuka? Isn't that the default name of the FGO MC? Isn't it? Am I thinking, or is there a slight different? Isn't it Ritsuka Fujimaru? Yeah, Ritsuka Fujimaru, yeah. Okay, huh.
リツカは留守です。ですので、どうぞ気兼ねなく。
Well, I don't see who this Ritsuka is. With a dismissive wave, Aoko headed toward the door in the back of the worship hall. As she had indicated, she was quite accustomed to this church.
しずきさんはこちらに。まずは物置から清掃道具を運んでいただきます。
I love when Nasu writes the trivialities of just, like, life. Cooking, cleaning, that sort of stuff. But he writes it in such detail that it fills it with an air of normalcy, which of course is important to establish that normalcy so it can be ripped away when we get to the world of fantastic. The work entrusted at Sojiro did not require any particular skill. It was window cleaning at its most standard.
窓を全部拭けばいいんですね。
水拭きと空拭き、その後にコートスプレーもお願いします。はしごの高さは足りますか？
あれ、ちょっと足りないっぽいですね。
では届く範囲で結構ですので、よろしくお願いします。
After the brief exchange, the sister returned to the church. Sojiro began to wonder if it was out of distrust in him that she was being so curt. He understood that it was too soon to glean an answer from their first meeting, but then again, such answers always eluded Sojiro. Left alone, but no less encouraged, Sojiro began cleaning the windows. Oh, listen to them squeakers. Well, that's some squeaks. The day's weather was a disappointment once again. It had not gone so far as to rain, but it was too overcast to enjoy the sun. He leaned against the tall ladder and, beginning with a window about 5 yards from the ground, quietly cleaned. Sojiro was never the kind of person to mind physical labor. These are the exact same typos that hit FGO. Like it's the same style, you can tell. In fact, if there had been a blue sky, this might have been a perfect day off for him. By the time he finished his third or fourth window, he felt very relaxed and began to whistle. Though 15 feet was an intimidating height, it provided for a wonderful view at the same time. Turning toward the town gave Sojiro a clear view of the tree-topped hill that had previously caught his eye. Oh, buddy. The hill in the woods just outside of the town. Yo, this is kind of a mob. From here, the forest overlooking the sleepless city looked like a foreign castle. Oh, are you Ritsuka? Just then, lost in his thoughts while wiping the windows, Sojiro was pulled out of his trance by someone pacing below him. He looked down and saw a girl, her unkempt clothes otherwise contrasting her kind visage. Oh. Oh, I sure wonder what saint that is. Are you the sister, not religious, but physical, of the sister? Dang, you're kind of a mommy. She looked to be in her late 20s. Despite the cold, she was not wearing a coat. She had no purse either, which was rather strange, as a woman and a purse were never far apart. Oh, Nasu. Oh, Nasu. You and your view of females. Not that Sojiro knew this truth quite yet. Based on the fact that none of this seemed to apply to her, one could at least surmise that she herself was a little loosey-goosey. A few cards short of a full deck, one might say. Well, if she's a few cards short of a full deck, Sojiro is a few, he's just the rules card, and that's it. That's all he's got, right? Yeah, he can follow the rules, but that's about it. Can't play with him. Thank God you're talking about his work ethic. The girl looked up in admiration to Sojiro as he stood atop his ladder. You're fun, but also you'll get kicked out of a church. The girl let out a hearty laugh. Her smile glowed like a cactus had sprouted legs and began to run about. What the frick is that simile? That's ridiculous. If you said her smile glowed like a cactus that had sprouted a flower, I'd be like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. But legs? Inasmuch as a running cactus could only cause trouble. Oh, fair. That's fair. I should have clicked. As Sojiro anticipated, the girl began to clean without waiting for his approval. Yo, this music's real good. Uh-oh. Then again, if there was a place for adults to flirt with children, it would be at a church. Heyo! Heyo! That's the second joke of this part. I'm going to hell. Wiping the window next to Sojiro, the girl continued to cheerfully chatter. Although this was all kinds of suspicious, Sojiro politely followed her lead, nodding and agreeing as she spoke. Perhaps it was an instinctive camaraderie. He sensed this girl was just like him, always getting the short end of the stick when it came to menial work. Huh?
いや、会ってませんよ。会ってます。君、魚達さんでバイトしてる子でしょ？今週だけでも何度か言ってるもん、私。
My man was too much on that grind culture.
私は、 そうね。花沢って言うんだけど、君の名前は？
Sorry, did you have to think about your name? Hanazawa took a quick glance at the flower bed in the middle. Hana means flower. That's a fake name. That's a fake name. That's like when it's like, what's your name? And you look over at the table and see Catchman like, Tom Mato. You know, I'm Caesar Salad. It's my name. Hanazawa took a quick glance at the flower bed below in the middle of her introduction, and then gave a friendly laugh. That's a reference only if you're smart with the Japanese you'd get. Sojiro's self-introduction, however, was his usual brand of awkward.
Sojiro-san. いい名前ね。古風な感じで。
She's like, I hate the spelling, though.
名前に数字が入ってると、なんか日本人って感じがしない？ここの神父さんとかシスターの名前知ってる？エイリとかユイカとか、なんか外国風なんだけど。
I don't know if I would... They are strange names, I'll say. Eri and Yuika. They don't sound like... They sound Japanese, but they don't sound normal for Japanese. They sound like super uncommon Japanese, but I don't know what other language they would be.
エイリさんはともかく、ユイカさんは綺麗な黒髪の女の人でしたよ。
あら、神父さんにはまだ会っていないのね。間教会の美形神父と美人姉妹って言ったら有名なんだけど。あ、そうか。さては君、最近引っ越してきたんでしょう。しか
そうですけど、花沢さんすごいですね。さっきからあまりにも的確な当てずっぽうです。
いえいえ、推理と言ってくれたまえ。君ぐらいの子がアルバイトに精を出すほど、この町の娯楽は魅力的じゃないもの。遊ぶお金ならバイト一件で賄えちゃうわ。君は物欲のあるタイプじゃなさそうだし。となると、これはもう生活費のためと考えるのが健全でしょ。
Only wholesome reason. That could have some subtext.
まあ学生さんが生活費も学費も自分だけで賄うなんてのは健全じゃない。
So again, we know that eventually he's gonna move in with the girls. What's gonna happen? Is his house gonna get destroyed in a fight, or is it just gonna be a case of I can't do this work anymore, and then he just moves in?
そうでもないですよ。働かざる者、食うべからずです。
そっか。宗十郎さんは若いのに立派ね。私も学生の頃はバイト三昧だったから、少しは君の大変さもわかるわよ。
なんと、花沢さんも一人暮らしだったんですか？
ええ。親の反対を押し切って、よその国に留学しちゃったの。あっちには友達もいたから下宿先には困らなかったけど、さすがに食費ぐらいは稼がないとね。けどまあ、こう見えて肉体労働は苦にならないタイプだし、学院もバイトも楽しい思い出になってるわ。
Sojiro nodded agreeably. Dignified or not, he could barely hold back the sense of solidarity that was welling up within him.
これも何かの縁だし、魚達さんではこれからお世話になりそうだし、頼りないだろうけど、相談事があったらぜひ言ってね。
She seems nice.
力になるわ。
Little out there. Also untrustworthy with the name stuff, but nice.
ありがとうございます。じゃあ早速ですけど、ここは何をするところなんでしょう？
Oh god. My man's asking her to explain religion. As Sojiro said here, he pointed at the church. Even Hanazawa was taken aback by this question. Unaware of Sojiro's provincial background, combined with her quick-witted nature, Hanazawa seemingly mistook his question for some kind of sophisticated wit.
そうね。心の安全を扱っているというのはどうかしら。いえ、安全というよりは鎧？継ぎはぎのバリケード？とにかく本人はちっとも鍛えられないってことは同じよね。
That's a lot to unpack, actually. You didn't see my eyes kind of... At first, I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying, but then it's a way for people to avoid getting better. I'm like, dang, you ain't wrong.
あとはパンとワインも分けてくれるわね。
Yeah, but one, cheap wine. Two, the bread, they're little diskies.
無料でですか？
もちろん。 止めるものは勝手に置いていくって話。
Yeah, this was before it was, you know, at this time in Japan it was not a case of, you know, them forcing you to pay every time, even if you just came to visit once.
あとはそっか、これが一番大きいんだけど、収入に税金がかからない。
True.
心の安全は扱いが難しいけど、きちんと売り物にできればノーリスクハイリターンよ。
You know, I never expected that I'd be reading about the way churches aren't taxed in a video game.
はあ、よくわからないですけど、ピンチの時はここに転がり込めばいいんですね。
うん、それはおすすめしないな。ご利用は月に1回、気休め程度にした方がいいと思う。
Huh. The rags squeaked as the two carefree souls continued to wipe down the windows. Whistling as they went, they shined up one window, then another, then another.
そうだ、もう一つあります。ここから見えるあの森、何ですか？
森？あの山の上にある森のこと？
ですけど、あれは山じゃなくて丘と言うべきです。
As someone raised in the countryside, Sojiro's pride would not allow for a mound of dirt to be called a mountain.
そう？あれはあれで結構登るのに体力使うんだけど、ま、そっちの方がより。
It was as if a shadow fell over her till now sunny disposition. She was undoubtedly a beautiful woman with very lovely features, but as Sojiro looked at her in that moment, her smile melted away, and he saw how disturbed she was at his comment. When it comes down to it,
あれは丘です。それとほら、ここから煙突みたいなの見えますけど、あれは何ですか？
Sojiro was not the one to closely watch people's reactions and fuss over his
あれ
speech.
は本物の煙突よ。あの森は全部私有地なんだけど、その中にでっかい洋館が立っているの。でも私有地だから地元の人間も入ったことはないんじゃないかしら。通称クオンジのお化け屋敷ってね。近所の皆さんは気味悪がってるし、あんまり近寄らない方がいいんじゃない？あんな小さな森なのに遭難したとか野犬が出るとか物騒な話には事欠かないから。
野犬って、都会にも野犬？
たくさんいるわよ。この教会の裏手の空き地にだっているし、ここの神父さんは物好きだからパンとかあげちゃって、それでワンちゃんの巡回ルートになっちゃってるんでしょうけど。とにかく君子危うきに近寄らずよ。あの森には入らないのが町のルールなの。そもそも私有地だし、入ったらおまわりさんを呼ばれちゃって、そのまま交番でお説教タイムなんてあんまり楽しくないでしょ。
Sojiro nodded along to her story as he stared at the far-off chimney from his vantage point on the ladder. You know what this song reminds me of? The pan flute is very Mario 64. A teeny tiny part of him was curious about that hill because it reminded him of the woods where he grew up, but after reminding himself that it was none of his business, he returned to window washing. Thanks to Hanazawa lending a hand, they were able to finish the job without a hitch. Between the two of them, they had accomplished a simple but very time-consuming task.
はい、ご苦労様でした。あれだけ砂まみれだった窓が見違えたわね。どう？これから適当な査点でお茶にしない？宗十郎さんの仕事っぷりに敬意を表して、私が
Oh.
はい。何か言いました？花沢さん。
いや、ごめんなさい。休養を思い出しちゃった。花沢さんはここで失礼するのでした。チャオ。
Hey, I like people who say that. By the time Sojiro, who had started putting away the ladder, turned around, he was only able to catch a glimpse of the girl's figure dashing toward the street at lightning speed. Strange. It was just before 3 o'clock. More than 3 hours had passed since Hanazawa offered to help. Sojiro watched the girl with many strange faces disappear. For someone who seemed to have been on an aimless walk, Hanazawa had spent a good deal of time with him. Maybe helping Sojiro out reminded her of something she needed to do.
しずきくん、そっちにいるの？
The student council president popped her head out from the corner of the church.
あ、声かけてごめん。いいから作業に専念。
The sight of Sojiro putting away a ladder taller than him seemed to have provoked an emotional response in Aoko. Then in an instant, she rolled up her sleeves and began to approach him.
お、
This surprised him more than Aoko's sudden appearance. Ignoring Sojiro's bewilderment, Aoko promptly began issuing orders.
はしご横に倒していいわよ。下の方は私が持つから、あなたは上の方をお願い。
She did all this so matter-of-factly that Sojiro began lowering the ladder before he even had a chance to insist he could do it by himself. She's just excited to be done. With the work finished and the sisters' thank you gifts in hand, the two put the church behind them. Since Aoko apparently had something to do around the station, they decided they would walk together until they got there.
でも、本当にアルバイト慣れしてるのね。
Beneath the orange-tinged sky, Aoko spoke, more as though she was expressing her thoughts out loud than striking up a conversation.
そうか。青崎から見てそうなら少しは嬉しいな。
Sojiro gave her an earnest smile. But then again, he had been beaming ever since he received his pay, so the source of his joy was not so clear.
あのね、あなたは普段が問題ばっかりなんだから、あんまり調子に乗らないように。
うん。学校のことは言われると悲しくなる。
Sojiro hung his head dejectedly. Even if his job had been going well, school was still a bust. Exams were one thing, but even classwork was something he found himself falling behind in.
青崎は成績悪いやつは嫌いか？
まあ、頭というか巡りの悪い人との話は疲れるでしょうね。でも、あなたはそれ以前だし、そもそも私にはこれっぽっちも関係ないし。でっかいハンデを何とかするのは先生たちの仕事で、それに応えるのはあなたの役
True,
目。
very true.
アルバイトもいいけど、帰ったらきちんと予習やっときなさいよ。
That's super true. Teachers are there to provide the ability to achieve, not make achievement happen.
それはもちろん。学校の人たちはみんないい人だ。
That is a horrible sentence. Everyone at the school is good people. That would either be everyone at the school is a good person or everyone at the school are good people. That's rough.
そう、ならいいけど、みんないい人？
Oh, wait. That's on purpose. Aoko cocked her head to the side, unsure how this exchange had resulted in that response. She decided to interpret it as Sojiro simply expressing his gratitude as, oh, no, he was just a weirdo with his speech.
ところで、参考までに聞くんだけど、あなた、他にどんなバイトしてるの？
どこって商店街が多い。魚のお店とか花の店とか。あ、でも昨日は隣町まで遠出したな。遊園地のアルバイト。
Since the only school authorized locations were in the Misaki shopping district, his response was much as she expected. That is, except for the decidedly unexpected last part.
遊園地ってヤシロギの？
そう。使わなくなった看板とかオブジェとか解体して運び出したんだ。
へえ、うん、それは体力勝負でしょうね。
This left Aoko rather impressed. Transporting unused amusement park machinery was not a job that students willingly did in their free time.
でもいいな。私、キッチーランドって一度も行ったことないの。美咲。
Aoko looked up in the direction of the neighboring town. From here, you could just barely make out the Ferris wheel. Can you? Oh, there it is! The round steel frame of the wheel, illuminated by the sunset as it was reminiscent of an old gravestone.
そうか。それは金銭的な理由で。
Oh, she's like, you have no idea how friggin' rich I am. Aoko had to stifle her laugh. She knew it'd be rude to Sojiro to burst out laughing, but the remark tickled her funny bone.
そういうんじゃなくて、単純にあれが開園してから立て込んでて遊びに行く暇がなかっただけよ。お金で解決する問題だったらそれこそ今すぐに言ってるわ。
She's like, yo, I'm freaking loaded. Aoko showed Sojiro the envelope that contained the pay from the church. There was nothing sinister about her remark and gesture, but the fact that she did not jump at the chance to go made Sojiro sad.
それなら今度行けばいいじゃないか。
Oh, dang, smooth, bro.
ありがとう。けどそれは無理な話。あんたのことだから気づいていないと思うけど、あれ、
Oh.
潰れてるのよ。廃園になってからもう2年以上は経つんじゃない？
なんと。
Oh. It was no wonder there were no customers all the time he was there. Exasperated as she was at Sojiro, the student council president seemed to be enjoying herself. At this point, she would be yelling things at Sojiro like, I can't believe you didn't know that, but this evening, this one and only evening, she found it charming. This is way longer than I expected, this side thing. They parted ways and Sojiro returned home to his apartment, immersed himself in his studies. Before he knew it was time to go to work. Oh my god, you have the worst life. The major cultural difference, though certainly not the only point of difference between city and country, was the use of time. It did not matter what part of the city he was in, time flowed far too quickly here. That is true. Failing to squeeze even a drop of knowledge from his textbooks, he put them away for the day before heading into town. Your life is hell. You need a break, buddy. The night grew deeper as the today turned into tomorrow. I mean, I say that, but it literally just turned today to tomorrow. It's 12:17 p.m. for me, a.m. because I'm on that grind culture. But then again, this is also at the same time a bit of relaxing. Sojiro reversed his collar to protect his neck from the bitter cold and began to make his way back home. Not a soul to be seen. No dogs scrounging for food. No late-night shoppers. Why would there be? The solitary convenience store in the area closed at 11 o'clock. Yo, drip? I like the pea coat. That's what it's called, right? He mustered what little energy he had to take in an especially deep breath. Man-made landmarks lined the deserted street. Garish blue fluorescent light, brighter than the stars above, illuminated the darkness. An unconscious sense of anxiety stirred within him. God, it's beautiful, though. A chill crept up his spine as he attempted to mask his weakness with words. Stay out of the dark. Stay away from the deserted places. Whether it was for some deeper reason, or perhaps the fact that he looked so helpless, everybody he had met in his life seemed to warn him with those words. Getting big Call of the Night vibes from this. Just the beauty of the city at night. What did that even mean, stay out of the dark? Nowhere in this city was without light. Everywhere from the bustling train station to the remote residential areas was illuminated by artificial light, not least the main roads. Scary was scary, but this kind of fear was a different sort than what he'd felt in the mountains. The most likely source of his fear is the fact that this place was governed by starkly different rules. The way in which the city meted out justice was terribly imbalanced, and to the provincial Sojiro, his lack of familiarity with the laws of the land terrified him far more than the dark. In the mountains, retribution came swiftly to those who broke the rules. Take a game trail, for example. Those who unwittingly trespassed on the animal's kingdom domain would, as a matter of course, be savaged by the native wildlife. Have you seen the frame data on those deers? Accordingly, in Sojiro's mind, an offender paid the price for one's mistakes immediately. It's not a matter of who punished whom, it was simply that the one who broke the rules would meet instant, tangible retribution. He felt that, in this regard, the laws of the city were far too ambiguous. One could meet their demise without even knowing whether one was in the right or wrong. To put it simply, retribution was delayed. To take the analogy a step further, back in his home village, no one individual had given him the responsibility of maintaining order. In the city, however, someone was put in charge of punishing lawbreakers on behalf of the kind-hearted citizens who lived there. While crime and punishment in the mountains was synonymous, in the city the two were separated, and an unrelated person brought judgment after the crime had been committed. Entering places that must not be entered, seeing things that must not be seen, breaking a law had consequences. Someone would come to exact justice for the law that was broken. The result of all this was the safest way to survive in the city was not to stick your nose in the affairs of others. When the people who cared about Sojiro told him to stay away, they probably meant, if you don't, nobody will be able to help you. No matter how much of a nuisance these obstacles were, one could not just climb over a neighbor's fence, even when one's apartment was just on the other side. If people inside happened to be awake and call the police, we would lift a hand to help them. Oh, my man, you live like this? With his misguided view of the city, Sojiro once again ended his day in peace. Unable to fall asleep right away, he gazed out his window upon the night sky from the floor of his apartment. The cityscape had caused him to tremble in fear when he first moved here. The convenience of solving almost every problem with the flip of a switch. The novelty of living a wall away from a complete stranger, it all disappeared into the night sky when he looked up.
こんな空もあるのか。
Unconsciously, he recalled his own words. What dim stars, what a cramped sky. Here there were no starry nights. Could he even survive here? The same misgivings since his first night continued to haunt him. His eyelids fell shut. Although he was fraught with worry, Sojiro's body felt the fatigue from his work and studies, and thus he fell fast asleep. The town's story. Very nice. That was lovely, actually. I really appreciated that. Extra 7 days of spinning. All right. That was really nice. Yeah, quite. Actually, hold up. Okay, well, first off, let's save again. I hit that save. Just because we did save there, and yeah. The other thing I want to do is, can I open up the menu here? No. Okay, well, let's just go to the title for now. Okay, I'm curious though. Have we now do we get more characters on our thing? Okay. Okay, so there's still some more characters that we haven't met. Okay. I'm guessing you're the priest. I'm guessing. In fact, it looks like mostly girls, aside from probably you. Okay. Well, thank you all for watching, everyone. Some more Witch on the Holy Night. When we come back, we will be reading some of Chapter 2. So I will see you then for that, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm quite enjoying doing some more reading. It's just nice. It's comfy. And I gotta say, this is just a lot of really nice stuff for like a character who's a city person or a country person, like seeing the city. It genuinely to me is like, normally I hate that character. Normally I see that character, I'm like, this is super annoying. But this character is actually legitimately an enthralling character to read because they are so foreign, right? And that's enjoyable to really parse through. So yeah, thank you all for watching, guys. We'll see you next time for the next chapter in a bit. We'll see you then. Ciao.